real for a second. Have you ever felt like your prayers are just hitting the ceiling? Or maybe you've wondered if there's a right way to talk to God, especially when you're on top of the world or at rock bottom. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into some of the most powerful and honestly most instructive prayers in the entire Bible. We're not just going to read them, we're going to take them apart piece by piece to really understand their patterns, their purpose, and what they can teach us about having a deeper, more meaningful conversation with God.
So yeah, we're about to go on a little journey through these sacred words, but this isn't going to be some stuffy history lesson, I promise. Think of it more like we get to listen in on these incredibly raw, real, and dynamic conversations between people and God. These ancient prayers, they're like a window straight into the soul, and they reveal the struggles, the praise, and the unshakable hope of people who, really, were a lot like us.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. We're going to start with the very heart of biblical prayer. Then we'll explore prayers of praise and gratitude, what to do in times of crisis, and even these really intense prayers of national repentance. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how Jesus took all these ideas and gave them a laser-like focus. This is going to be great because it's going to give us a kind of practical toolbox for our own prayer lives, helping us see the why behind the conversation. Okay, first up, the heart of biblical prayer. What if prayer wasn't just some religious thing you have to do, but it was more like the very heartbeat of a relationship? See, throughout the Bible, prayer isn't just a side topic. It's this golden thread that weaves through the entire story, connecting person after person, generation after generation, in this timeless conversation with God. You know, what's so amazing about these prayers is that they're not just dusty old texts. They are intimate, honest glimpses into the messy, beautiful, and sometimes just heartbreaking reality of what it means to be human. We get to see people wrestling with God, celebrating big wins, and just clinging to faith when it feels like everything is falling apart around them.
All right, next up, let's talk about prayers of praise and gratitude. I don't know about you, but it's so easy for me to forget to just say thank you. But in the Bible, gratitude is an incredibly powerful form of prayer. It's about taking a second to recognize God's goodness and just responding with this outpouring of joy.
And the perfect example of this, it's got to be Hannah. I mean, can you imagine? After years and years of the silent ache of barrenness, she's finally blessed with a son, Samuel. And her prayer? It's not just a polite, oh, thanks. No, it's an anthem of pure joy. It's this powerful declaration that God is in control and that he can turn our deepest pain into our greatest joy. It's this incredible shift from her private sorrow to this public explosion of praise. My heart rejoiceth in the Lord. You can just feel the emotion coming off the page, can't you? This isn't some formal, scripted prayer. This is a gut-level, heartfelt response to God being faithful. And it's a great reminder for us that our prayers don't have to be perfect or polished. They just have to be real.
Okay, so now let's shift gears from a personal miracle to a huge national promise. Imagine God tells you that your family is going to produce kings forever. How do you react? Do you do a victory lap, post it on social media? Well, not David. When God makes this mind-blowing promise to him, David's response is a complete masterclass in humility. He's not puffed up with pride, he's just floored by the sheer grace of it all. So what can we pull from David's prayer? Well, he gives us this beautiful, simple pattern. It kicks off with humility. Who am I, really? Then it flows right into gratitude, just acknowledging God's faithfulness over and over. And finally, it rests on what he calls covenant faith. Basically, he stands on God's promises and asks God to do the very thing he just said he would do. It's such a powerful model for us.
We've all been there, right? Those moments when life just throws a massive curveball and you have no idea where to turn. That's when we need these prayers for times of crisis. These are the raw, unfiltered, desperate cries for help when we're up against something that feels totally overwhelming.
Okay, picture this in your mind. A massive enemy army is right at your city gates. Their commander sends you a letter that basically mocks your God and promises to completely annihilate you. What do you do? Well, King Hezekiah takes that letter, walks right into the temple, unrolls it, and lays it out before God. It's like he's saying, God, you see this. This is your problem now. It's an act of just total, radical surrender. So what's the big takeaway here? Hezekiah gives us this incredible model for crisis prayer. First, he starts by acknowledging God is sovereign, that he's the one truly in charge. Then he presents the problem with brutal honesty. But here's the real kicker. His ultimate goal isn't just his own survival. He asks God to act for the sake of his own glory, so that everyone will know who the one true God is. Now, let's look at a completely different kind of crisis. Hezekiah was facing an enemy from the outside. But Jonah? His crisis was entirely his own fault. He literally ran from God and ended up in the belly of a giant fish. I mean, talk about hitting rock bottom. But his prayer from that dark, desperate place is such a powerful reminder that absolutely no one is beyond the reach of God's mercy. It's one of those stories that gives you so much hope, you know? It reminds me that no matter how far I run, I'm never too far for grace to find me. And just look at the incredible journey inside this one prayer. He starts at the absolute bottom, in total despair, feeling completely cast out. But then, this tiny spark of faith ignites, this determination to just look toward God again. And then, and this is the craziest part, he ends with thanksgiving before he's even been rescued. It just goes to show how turning our faces back to God, even in our darkest moment, can completely change our perspective. This brings us to another really powerful type of prayer, prayers of national repentance. This is basically when a whole nation, a whole community comes together to say, you know what, we messed up, we are sorry. It's this powerful moment of corporate confession, often led by just one person who feels the weight of the whole community's actions. Take a guy like Ezra. He's this faithful leader, a scribe. But when he discovers that the people of Israel have been unfaithful to God, he doesn't point fingers. He doesn't play the blame game. Instead, he completely owns it. He identifies with them, he takes their sin on himself, and he prays this gut-wrenching prayer of corporate confession, taking full responsibility for what they had done. The emotion here is just so raw, isn't it? Oh my God, I am ashamed and blush to lift up my face to thee. This isn't some half-hearted, oops, my bad. This is a deep, painful expression of shame and sorrow that really gets to the core of what true repentance is all about. It's a reminder that repentance isn't about saying the right words, it's about having the right heart. Okay, now we're going to get really practical and look at another model of this from Nehemiah. His incredible prayer for Jerusalem can actually be broken down into 4 simple parts. Part 1, he starts with adoration. He reminds himself and God of who God is, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of love. From that solid foundation of who God is, he moves on to part 2, confession. And just like Ezra, he puts himself right in the middle of the mess, saying, "We have acted very wickedly towards you." That's such a powerful picture of real leadership, owning the failures of your people as if they were your own. Part 3 is remembrance. And this part is so bold and fascinating. Nehemiah basically has the audacity to remind God of his own promises, the things God himself said about scattering his people, but then gathering them back if they return to him. He's not just begging for mercy, he's actually appealing to God's own character and his own word. And only after laying this incredible foundation of adoration, confession, and remembrance does he finally get to part 4, the petition, the ask. He asks for mercy. This structure is such a game changer because it shows us that our prayers can be so much more effective when they're not just a laundry list of our wants, but a deep conversation rooted in who God is and what he has promised. So, we've seen all of these amazing, powerful examples of prayer in the Old Testament, but what did Jesus have to say about all this? Well, get ready, because he takes all these rich traditions and gives them a totally radical new focus. Jesus really doesn't pull any punches when it comes to prayer. He warns us that it's not about putting on a show for other people. It's not about just babbling on, thinking that more words will somehow manipulate God. And it is definitely not a substitute for actually living a life that honors God. So what's the bottom line? For Jesus, prayer is all about one thing: a real, authentic, genuine relationship with God. As we wrap up our journey through these ancient prayers, I really hope you've been inspired to think about your own conversation with God. We've seen the pure joy of Hannah, the deep humility of David, the desperate crisis plea of Hezekiah, and the structured repentance of Nehemiah. So the question I really want to leave you with is this: which one of these prayers resonates most with where you are in your life right now? Because in their timeless patterns, we can find a roadmap for our own journey of faith.